Warm greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. This is a horrendous, horrendous case coming out of Florida. There's a manhunt underway for a Leslie Ronald Lagrotta, 61 years of age. He has committed the most atrocious of crimes, sexual assaults against women dating back to the 80s. I have the latest information on my community posts pertaining to Leslie Lagrotta. If you need verification for the information, there are videos in the YouTube queue pertaining to this manhunt for this man. I'm going to read you this information, and then I'm going to play the audio from law officials pertaining to the sexual crimes, the manhunt, and the latest updates from the U.S. Marshals, FBI, and the local Florida law enforcement. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hello, everybody in the chat. WFLA is the source. 25,000 reward offered for serial rape suspect who terrorized Central Florida in the 80s and 90s. This is uploaded 4 days ago. Central Florida law enforcement agencies are looking for a man accused of terrorizing the region 30 years ago in a series of sex abuse and rape incidents. Orlando police say Leslie Ronald Lagrotta, 61, is the prime suspect in 3 sexual battery crimes that took place between 1988 to 1989 and 4 rape incidents from 1992 to 1998. All of them went cold. Through new DNA technology and persistent investigative work, Orlando Police Department detectives, the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, and the Daytona Beach Police Department helped pin down Lagrotta's identity. The only problem is police don't know where Lagrotta is and are calling on the public to help locate him. A $25,000 reward has been offered for information that leads police to the whereabouts of Lagrotta. Lagrotta was arrested by Daytona Beach police in 2010 when he was charged with resisting arrest using violence. At that time, he was forced to provide a DNA sample. Lagrotta then emptied his bank account and cut off all ties with family, Orlando police say. These types of efforts serve to remind our community that the Orlando Police Department and our partners will not stop trying to bring answers to victims and to their loved ones, no matter how much time has passed, Orlando Police Department said. Anyone with information about Leslie Lagrotta or who has heard from him is encouraged to reach out anonymously to Crime Line at 1-800-423-TIPS 8477 or crimeline.org. Thank you all so much for joining me. As I said, Lagrotta is 61 years of age. He's a Caucasian male. He may not look like the latest mugshot that is being posted to news outlets. He may be bigger, smaller, bald, gray, blonde hair. Who knows what he looks like? Who even knows if he's even alive? But I will get into that commentary after I play you the audio from the law officials. And that is the set information. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $ begins. You want to on Cash App. I'll super chat to welcome during the live. Thank you all so much for joining me.
In front of me, I was.
1 second. Thank you all. Today we'll be back-to-back lives because I have a lot of information I want to get out today pertaining to some cases. I'll go ahead and get them out of the way today. Thank you all so much for joining me.
I think you're going to want to hear from detectives field more than anything else. The technology that we have today, actually in this case, the technology that evolved in 2005 led to a palm print to help this detective work with the other detectives to identify this individual. 7 cases. The serial rapist was responsible for 7 cases, 3 in Orlando, 4 in the Volusia County area, and all of those victims are with us today, meaning they're still here on Earth, they're still alive. And with the exception of one who is living outside of this country, they're all wanting to see justice done for this individual who committed this heinous crime against them. So the detective will talk about some of the cases that we work here, mainly in the east side of Orlando. Through the process, I learned that back then, one of our Lieutenant Debbie Driscoll. Driscoll was the one who worked the cases that we put together. There were some consistencies, and one crime analyst or crime scene investigator had the presence of mind to capture a palm print that back then could not be used, but years later proved to be the key to identifying this person that we've been looking for a very long time. So with that said, I know that you will probably have additional questions that you can ask. I'll turn it over to the sheriff, and then the PILs will come up again and introduce Detective Fields.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. In my 16 years here as the sheriff and the police chief, OPD does never disappoint me when they get their hands on a tough assignment, and this one was a tough assignment. You're looking at a serial rapist. You're looking at a predator. You're looking at a guy who stole from these women. He stole their sense of self-being when he committed these horrible, horrible acts. And like a coward and the scumbag that he is, he's disappeared. So I want to share with you from our end what we were looking at. On January 16th, 1992, a female was in her apartment. When she walked into her bedroom, she was grabbed from behind, forced on the bed, and sexually assaulted, as the male talked about threatening to kill her during the whole process. On July 20th, 1993, the female woke up in her bedroom around 5 a.m. and saw the suspect naked crawling out of her bedroom. She screamed, he ran away. But when she went into the living room to investigate, he jumped out from behind the wall, forced her back into the bedroom where he sexually assaulted her. And then on May 11th, 1998, 20-year-old female was walking on the beach when she was knocked to the ground and at rape point was sexually assaulted. As we knew, and there's another job, and this is Daytona Beach that matches similar, and this case has been cold for us until we got the phone call from Detective Fields, and I think you really have to see the great work that was done on this. And now we have to apprehend this guy. And the Sheriff's Office, the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, is offering a $25,000 reward for any information that leads to his arrest. You don't have to do anything else. Pick up the phone, let us know where he's at, so we can work with OPD and bring this scumbag to justice. We owe it to these women.
And now you will hear from Lead Detective Michael Fields.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Fields, Michaelfields. In December of 2018, the Orlando Police Department examined this case and believed that the use of forensic genetic genealogy could benefit this case. Because since June of 2018, the investigative genetic genealogy has rapidly emerged as a highly effective tool in using DNA to identify unknown persons, whether they are unidentified bodies or suspects in crimes. So we took the use of traditional genealogy, combined it with the use of technology, and combined it together to form what is known as investigative genetic genealogy. On June 17th of 1988, the city of Orlando responded to a call on the east side of town for a woman who was sexually battered. This crazy woman survived a 20-minute ordeal of being raped at night point by the suspect. On July 30th of 1988, the city of Orlando responded to an additional call for service for a woman who, again, was held captive and raped and sexually battered multiple times. And on February 16th of 1989, the Orlando Police Department responded to our third call for a sexually battered incident in the city of Orlando. In 2018, I started the case. I began to work on it. I used the use of forensic genetic genealogy, but I also wanted to start from the beginning. We sent all the latent prints back to APHIS, and if you can think about 1988, there was no use of the palm prints in the use of crime solving. It wasn't until 2005 that the use of palm prints became a tool for us to use. So when we resubmitted those palm prints, it came back as a hit for Leslie Lagrotta. We were able to take that information and focus in on his family and use the genetic genealogy to eliminate everyone else in his immediate family. by the use of search warrants, consent, and other means to get the DNA from family members to show that the only person that could have done this heinous crime was Leslie Lagrotta. And then during the investigation, we learned in 2010 he was arrested in Volusia County for resisting an officer with violence. Part of the resolution of his case was to submit his DNA into the database. When he learned that that was going to happen, this feckless coward took $22,000 out of his bank account and fled. The last thing he told one of his relatives is, "The police are going to get my DNA. I need to leave town. I'm going to go to prison." So he fled. We were able to take his family's DNA and use YSTR testing to prove that it was him, and the use of genetic genealogy. Any questions?
So, do we have any idea where this guy might be? Any other trails? Just pay everything in cash for the money.
The U.S. Marshals have been trying to locate this this defendant for about a year and a half now, and we do not have any leads into where he is. There's a possibility he could have left the country, but there's no evidence to show that he has left the country. But we believe that is a possibility.
When is the last time he was seen? Was that in 2010 when he was arrested?
The last time, our investigation showed the last time he was seen was in 2010 when he told his brother, "I had to leave town, I'm going to go to prison."
Clarify the conference. So in 2005, there was a tool that was available that was able to identify the conference. How was this?
Yes.
How was the conference at that point?
We've been using fingerprints since 1902, but it's only been the fingerprints. The use of palm prints didn't come across in the criminal world until 2005. So our CSIs were able, back in the 1980s, even though they knew that there was no system to gather that palm print and to use it, they gathered it anyway, which was phenomenal. And now, because they had the forethought to grab that palm print from the window that he used to force his way inside of the victim's apartment, that palm print came back as a match to him.
So was there something to connect the dots that were going on in Volusia County in 2010 saying,
Well,
hey, this
real
guy's...
quick, if he's not giving credit to himself, he was working a cold case that you covered, and it was the victim from our homicide that was identified through the process that you described earlier. And then he began to focus on another case, which was this one, and he began to look at the files as a cold case, and he saw the palm print, and he requested for that palm print to be processed, and that led to identifying him.
So that was in 2018 that the palm print was actually connected to this guy?
Yes.
Okay. So you're able to submit that palm print to the DNA database or the genealogy?
No, I'm sorry. The palm print is separate. It's FBI APHIS, automatic fingerprint index system. So yes, it went into a separate database, a fingerprint database.
The reading of the palm print?
Yes.
And then that matched up with?
Yes, it was just another tool. They're completely separate, but we had thought that every I was dotted and every T was crossed. Just like any investigation, we wanted to make sure again that every I was dotted and every T was crossed, and that's when we realized that technology back in 1988 did not allow for a palm print. The technology at the time that we looked at it now said that we could use that technology.
So the original warrant for this guy was last year, but since then that you connected him to these 6 other cases?
So the warrant had come out. We were trying to locate him on our own, and now we are asking for the public's help.
Any indication that there could be other victims out there aside from these 7 cases that you've identified?
There is no doubt in my mind there are additional victims or survivors out there. These are the only ones that have been connected through science.
Do we know anything about this man? Does he live in Orlando? Was he from Orlando? Did he work anywhere particular? Was it a lot of women? I was trying to figure out what's his background.
Leslie Lagrotta lived in Volusia County. He owned a home out in Volusia County. He had a girlfriend who lived on the east side of town. That is the nexus we believe to why he was on the east side of town. But he lived, worked in Volusia County.
Do you think he's gone dormant between that 10-year period, or do you think possibly he gave in some other area that we just don't know about?
I don't think that I don't know the answer to that.
What about the leads that you have been receiving? Have any of them been anything of any value as far as where he could possibly be?
We have had 0 leads as to his whereabouts as of right now. That's why we are asking for anyone who has any information to please contact the Orlando Police Department, the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, or Crime Line.
I saw that he had a stalking charge in his past, back in the 80s. Was there anything else in his past that would give a hint that this guy might have been up to a little bit more?
In hindsight, yes, it's easy to look back and see a pattern. When he was arrested for the resisting with violence, he was actually outside of a woman's window, and the officers arrived, saw him, chased him. He wanted to get away. He fought the officers to try to get away. So, yes, in hindsight, it's easy to look back and see a pattern of his creepy affairs.
At the time, and that happened in 2010 in Volusia County, when he was arrested for that incident, resisting with violence for officers, was the connection hadn't been made yet, or had it?
It had not been made. There was at that point, his DNA was not in the database. One of the resolutions to his case was, we're going to let you out. You're going to have this amount of probation, and you have to submit your DNA to the database. And he knew right then and there that he was going to be in a large amount of trouble. And he told his family member, I'm going to go to prison. I need to leave town.
If you have to sum up his MO, I know one of the, I think it was Sheriff mentioned that 9-point battery, bedroom, et cetera, was it the same for Orlando? How would you sum up his MO? Is there anything very similar?
There is absolutely a pattern of his sexual batteries. He preyed on women who were alone. He preyed at women who were home alone between the hours of midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. And there are some other patterns which we choose to withhold as of right now until trial. But there are some other patterns there.
Do his victims look similar?
With the exception of being young and white, that's the only similarities that I'm aware of.
When you contacted these women and said, hey, if we got this guy, it's been decades, what was the response that you got?
I know that the detectives from the sheriff's office contacted their victims. I can't speak for those, but the 3 victims I contacted were very shocked and surprised. They'd already moved on and thought that this was never going to get solved. And although it drummed up old feelings, they were very happy to know that we knew the identity of the suspect and we were trying to actively search him out.
Well, then they got to be fearful too, knowing that he's still out there somewhere.
I don't think that I would be able to answer that question. I think it's obvious to think that, but I did not ask that.
And when you identified him in 2018 and the search started, it's been 3 years since you've been searching for him. What's prompting this press conference today? Is it that people have not come forward with his whereabouts?
The U.S. Marshals has come to a dead end. They are unable to locate him. We were hoping to locate him and bring him to justice. So now we're at the point where we need the public's help to try to locate him.
So you do suspect he's left the state?
I definitely believe he has left the state of Florida and possibly even the United States.
So I'll add a few more comments and I'll let the sheriff wrap it up. But another point to make a note of is the fact that we're highlighting the importance of how science, technology, and great detective work is leading to solving some of these cases and to what you said a few minutes ago that are decades old, right? So this is just the beginning of greater things to come when it comes to bringing justice to these victims that deserve for these individuals to be not only caught, but held accountable for their actions. So the message should be clear for anyone who has engaged or has even thought about engaging in that type of violence, that The technology is moving in a direction where it's very favorable for law enforcement to solve these crimes. So if anyone out there has any information, please share it. There's got to be someone who knows a little bit about this individual, especially after now his name and picture has been shared. And even if it's something that they are just wondering whether it would be useful or not, come forward, report it. And the sheriff has just mentioned a very generous reward for someone who could lead us to the apprehension of this guy. Sure.
I just want to reiterate that this was done, as the chief said, with great technology, but also great police work. You know, and this isn't the first time in my career OPD has done something for me in Volusia County or as a police chief in Daytona. You can't outrun the DNA. And that's what the chief's telling you. You can't outrun it. And you have men and women that are working all the time to try to bring closure to these victims, because we have lots of DNA, we have lots of cases like this, but it takes great cops to do their job coupled with technology to come after this guy. And again, $25,000. You don't have to testify or do anything. Tell us where to find him and let these guys, these men and women do their job. Thank you.
Is Lagrotta's family helping? Are they cooperating with law enforcement in terms of helping to apprehend him or find him?
He has 7 siblings, some of which were very helpful, some of which were not very, very helpful, which is why we had to execute search warrants to get their DNA. But some were very helpful. I felt very saddened for the survivors.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
In Spanish,
60 and 961, right?
I'm sorry.
He is 60 and 961.
No se resume en español, por favor. ¿Cómo no? Perdón. So, lo que queríamos dejar saber hoy es que esta persona ha sido identificada como una persona responsable por las violaciones de 7 mujeres aquí en el condado de Orange y en la ciudad de Orlando.
Streaming live on WFLA.
All right. That's WFLA. After that will be the infamous reporter who loves to bring you all information out of Florida. I'm not going to keep playing it as not to have it dominate the live. Hold on one second. I'm going to do some rearranging because there's some work being done and I don't want the background noise to disturb us. Leslie Lagrotta, 61 years of age, Caucasian male, dark hair. Last time he took this photo while he was being arrested. Let me set it up again for those coming into the chat. Leslie Lagrotta was standing outside of a woman's window, naturally to break in, to commit a sexual assault. He was apprehended by the police. He fought them violently. Obviously, he got off on probation because naturally he didn't get to break into the home. After breaking in, after going to court, losing my train of thought. He knew he would go to jail because of the DNA. He told a relative, I believe it was a brother or somebody, that I will go to jail. They test the DNA. He didn't test the DNA. Well, they may not, Ocean. Excuse me. But the point is, he didn't get to break into the house. He got off on probation. He told a relative he was going on the run or leaving, whatever, because he knew the DNA would link him to the several rapes that occurred in Florida. And as you heard, all of the victims were there in the court, in that municipal room while the law officials gave their statement pertaining to the manhunt. U.S. Marshals have been searching for this man for years. 2018, a palm print was put into the database, which linked it to Mr. Lagrotta. They have tested his DNA through family members. Some were cooperative, some were not. He is the the brother to 7 siblings. They have not heard from him allegedly. So allegedly nobody knows where he is. He took $22,000 out of the bank to go on the run. Now, mind you, even in 2010, that's not a lot of money if you're trying to not be apprehended. Let me say that. And naturally, many people go on the run. Hello, everybody. People go on the run every day for various reasons: fraud, murder, attempted murder, sexual assault, whatever. Some may think he's out of the country, Mexico, wherever. Law officials have said during the statement they did not have any verification that he went overseas. So you have to use common sense. As I said, $22,000 is not a lot of money. That money was taken out in 2010. It is now 11 years later. 9 times out of 10, he's gone through that money. Okay? So where is he? Is he in Mexico? Is he in a South American country where the dollar's higher? Because naturally, $22,000 can do a little bit of work in Mexico, South American countries 10 or so years ago. And the dollar is still high in those said countries, American dollar. But even when you go on the run, you have got to be savvy about your footprint, your movements, your tongue, your appearance. You can't talk to people. You can't tell people where you're from. You have to also count if you have an accent. There's always somebody looking. There's always somebody watching. There's always a, as I call it, a Captain Save-A-Ho. Somebody who will be glad to go call law enforcement if they think it's you. People who like to meddle in your business. Ask 50,000 questions. There's people who do this all day to random people. And these people aren't on the run. You just have people who are nosy. They meddle. They want to ask you 50,000 questions. So you see, when you go on the run, you have to be very careful about what you do, how you walk, how you talk. You can't talk about Florida. You can't talk about how many brothers and sisters you have. You can't use your name. You can't ever talk about anything pertaining to the location, locale from which you came. So where is Mr. Lagrotta? Is he alive, first and foremost? When was the last time he had contact with his family? Are they telling the truth, those who said they haven't heard from him? Do they know where he is? Let's say, for instance, he is dead. I think they would gladly tell law officials that, hey, yeah, we went and buried him this day, that day. He was using an alias, blah, blah, blah. Somebody called us. We've already buried him. Because naturally, these people don't want the police to keep bothering him, banging on doors, issuing search warrants for records, garbage cans, the house, personal records, bank statements. You know how it goes. So I would think they would gladly tell the police, oh, he's dead. We buried him already. That way they don't have to come back around bothering these people. Secondly, why would you not want to help law officials find your brother? Your brother is a sadist. He has raped several women. Okay? A palm print has been put into the database to link your brother to sexual assaults. Finally. So why not do the right thing? Help them find your brother and bring him to justice. He is owed that. Excuse me. And as that reporter said for WFLA, 40 years free, roaming the earth, raping people is a long time. To do as you see fit. And he is the prime example of why I say, don't ask why not. I did it because I could. I did it, I do it because I can. Catch me if you can. He is a grand narcissist. The ultimate. And let me say this. This is what I'm about to say is very horrific, but it's the spoken word. And I think most of you who follow true crime and you watch true crime, you watch stories of serial killers, you know what I'm about to say is the truth. This man made a desperate move to take money out of the bank and go on the run, as not to do time for raping women. Common sense should tell you he has still probably raped somebody after 2010. And they're possibly dead. Because a rapist, once he has been brought under scrutiny, whether he got arrested or not, questioned or not, he will not leave a victim behind to talk. That's how a rapist becomes a killer. She pointed me out I got arrested or I got questioned, it won't happen again. So the moral of this story is, God forbid he is still alive, and he is also now taking the life or lives of women, because this man went on the run and his ways would not change because he went on the run. You can go to my community post to see the picture there. My community page. 9 times out of 10, Mr. Lagrotta, if he is alive, he still has a rapist tendencies. He has not changed. You cannot change a rapist, sadist. It has been proven with many studies, hours of talking to rapists, child molesters. They're all the same. It is a behavior that cannot change, cannot be cured. So if he is still alive at 61, he has not changed. And if he was a virile man at 51, 50 when he went on the run, 9 times out of 10, he has still committed crimes against women. And I won't doubt that he's also murdered a woman or women, as to go undetected from law officials. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but you need to be aware of what type of man he is and what type of men are out here who are sexual predators. Rapists will become killers as to not be arrested. Everybody knows that. It's on my channel, sweetheart. Go to my channel and go to the community. Hit the community word. just hit my face on my channel and it'll take you to the community. That is where I post all news stories. And when I don't want to leave the comment box open under a video, you all kindly go over there to post. Because I don't have the time to go through a lot of comments now. It takes a lot of work. Leslie Renaud Lagrotta, Caucasian male, dark hair at that time, has been on the run. U.S. Marshals have exhausted all resources as far as leads to find Mr. Lagrotta. And the fact that he's been on the run since 2010 tells you he did not want to be caught. You're welcome. He did not want to be apprehended. That's why he took the money out of his account and went on the run. So where did he go, first and foremost? Where is Mr. Lagrotta? Is he alive? Is he dating someone, married to someone? Has he had children? Imagine the woman he's with and she finds out she's been sleeping with a rapist. Because mind you, at the time of these rapes, he had a girlfriend on the east side of town. That's why he was choosing that side of town to assault women. And they always tell you that about a rapist. They usually work the area where they live as to get away. Easy to get away if I could duck over here. Excuse me. Somewhere quickly. But I would think a sadist would want to rape a person on another side of town. Because why would I want to rape on the side of town where I hang and I can be seen and recognized? Do you understand what I'm saying? But everyone moves differently. And we can't try to figure out the mind of a rapist and or killer. Because you'll never be able to figure them out because there's no rhyme or reason to committing the atrocious crimes that they commit. But it is just a normal thing for us to question. Why? Where is the girlfriend who he was dating at the time he was committing these atrocious acts against women? What does she think now? Is she alive? How does she feel? Knowing that she was bedding this man and he was out here scouring neighborhoods at night up until 5 a.m. looking for a victim. He would break into the women's homes and lie in wait in their house in the dark and pounce them, make his move. Law officials also say he has a pattern, which they won't reveal. But I already had an idea of which pattern it was, and it was mentioned in this audio that he threatened the women. And that is one thing most rapists will do. You better not tell, you better not talk, or I'll kill you. I'll kill your family. I'll kill your kids. Does he use a weapon during the sexual assaults? Many will use a knife as to threaten you, scare you, put fear in you, so you will comply to the sexual assault and prevent you from going to the law officials to tell. Some will torture their victims. They will use instruments to torture their victims. And that is the worst besides death. It's to be violated in your own home, tortured, and then murdered. All rapists do not kill, but they can become a killer as to not be apprehended. And that's the worst part of the story, is when the rapist becomes a killer. If you see this man, you see anyone that resembles this man, because we do not know what he looks like. He could be taller, he could be skinnier, he could be fatter, he could have blonde hair, no hair, gray hair, bald, run like hell and call 911. He is a sexual predator. He's been raping for many years. He's 61. 9 times out of 10, he's been raping since at least his 20s. Because these men do start young in life as predators. He's probably that guy that would offer to help you carrying your groceries, help you carrying a chair while you're moving furniture, and lo and behold, as soon as your back is turned inside of the house or apartment, he'll jump you and take your goodies from you. He's that guy. You have to be woke. Yes. And this is the time when people are not paying attention. The holidays. Exactly. This is one of the worst seasons of the year. It should be the happiest, but it's not, because this is the season where people are mostly robbed. Because people are trying to get your money, your goods. So you do need to be aware of your surroundings. Going in and out of your house, your home, your apartment, shopping areas, dark areas. And naturally, you can also be accosted during the day. People don't really care. So you have to be aware of your surroundings all times of the day. Letting people into your house, it doesn't matter who it is, man, woman, kid. You have to be careful opening the door. Doesn't matter if you know somebody's coming, FedEx, UPS, somebody's coming to fix something, repair something. You can be turned on at a given moment because you don't know who a sexual predator is. Could be somebody coming to fix the Wi-Fi, the telephone lines, the cable guy. Don't ever think it cannot happen to you. Ocean, please. Now, come on now. Seriously, this man is out here and he has been walking around us, living around us, probably dating someone, married to someone. And that's the scary part. It's the fact that he's been on the run for 11 years and no one has turned him in. So that means he's gone underground. 9 times out of 10, he changed his appearance. And he's just been coexisting. But that means he had to, one, either get a fake ID before he left on the run, or he's stolen someone's identity, or more identities to stay undetected. But now that his face has been plastered on the local news down there in Florida, and now in the YouTube queue, hopefully somebody will recognize him. But where I have a problem with this story is if he's been on the run 11 years, how did he go this long that we didn't know anything about him and why it didn't make national news? Well, I guess the reason is because the palm print just got processed in 2018, which was just 3 years ago. But still, once his name hit a ping in the system with the palm print, his face should have went national the day you got the information that the DNA linked up to a victim. So his face should have been plastered 3 years ago on national news, if it was not. Leslie Renaud Lagrotta, 61 years of age, Caucasian male, Italian male. I don't know if he's Italian. His name sounds Italian. Either way, he is a light colored skinned man resembling a Caucasian man, the Caucasian race. You can go into YouTube Q and pull up the latest information from WFLA. They are currently covering the story of the same guy that was covering the Gabby Petito story. He is also covering this case out of Florida. Please be aware of your surroundings. I brought you this story because I saw it yesterday. I thought it was a very interesting story. I thought you all needed to be aware of who he is. I will be back with another live, true crime live here shortly. And this is an actual crime that took place here in America. Because I did tell you all a month or so ago, or a month and a half ago, I was going to bring you a story of a certain male who was a killer out of the Midwest, and I never got that story out. So I have let you all down on that end, and I want to hurry up and bring that story to you all today. And another live I will also do. So there'll probably be 2 more lives today pertaining to stories that I've covered and not covered. If you see this man, please call 911. Do not approach him. This is a very sad story. This man has raped women from the 80s and the 90s, and he breaks into these women's apartments, and he lies in wait and makes his move, and he assaults the women. And we have 7 victims, and they do believe that there are more than the 7. And his database, his DNA has been put into the database, COVIS, and it came back a hit in 2018. So I'm sure that's why many people are going to be mumbling to themselves, why has he been out here raping women for so long? Because naturally he didn't have a record. He never got arrested. So you can't have your DNA in the database if you've never been arrested. And you do have states now that will take your DNA for any violent crime or basic crime. Because the assumption is that a person who steals won't rape, or a person who steals won't kill. Well, you never know the day what a person will do and change. So that's why it's best to get a person's DNA for any crime they commit, because people do change. Yes, well, Sandy, that's why you have to be careful in carrying a gun, because a lot of people have had their guns taken from them. And I advise anyone who is a legal carrier, you should go to a shooting range and take lessons to shoot, as to aim for the target and not miss. Because that would be the worst case scenario, to be accosted somewhere at home, in the street, in your car. You have a weapon, but you can't use it. You lose the weapon, and then the weapon is used against you. Well, Sandy, it's up to somebody to do that, honey. That's why you have to stay in the loop with your local news and police department, because police departments now have their own Facebook page, and they will list the latest stories, crime stories, fugitives. But see, a lot of people don't like watching the news. And a lot of you have said that they come into the chat. Well, I don't watch news. I watch YouTube. Well, YouTube has news on it. So there's really no excuse to wait for a YouTuber to bring you news about a story. Frankly, I would prefer to hear it from the news. verbatim. You should always want to watch the news. And many people refuse to watch their local news because now social media has taken over. So people are more into Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and they don't think about watching the news. They may watch a movie here or there, a reality show or something here and there, but they don't turn on morning news, 12 o'clock news, 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock news. But you do need to know what's going on in your community. It should not be a matter of waiting for a notification to come up on your phone of something that happened in your local area or across the bridge. And I have to remind myself I need to start tuning into the news at least at 6, 11 o'clock because I do need to know what's going on. But I do have notifications from the news break, so I get notifications of local stories and breaking news. And I just read the article. And sometimes if there's a video, a news video, then I'll open it up and watch and listen to the news video. So once again, recapping the information for those coming in late, and I'm going to check out of here. Leslie R. Lagrotta, 61 years of age, Caucasian male, has been on the run since 2010 from Florida. He took $22,000 out of his bank after being arrested by the police. He was very violent with them. They caught him standing outside of a woman's window. He has been linked to 7 sexual assaults in the state of Florida. All those women allegedly are still alive and were at that press conference that I just played for you via the news. He is one of 7 siblings. Some are cooperating, some have not. They linked his DNA through his family members to make a match from the DNA palm print from 2018. This is how they have linked him to a rape or more out of Florida from a 2018 COVIS data. He is now in the database. Amen. If you are someone who has been sexually assaulted, please contact your local law enforcement. If you are someone who was in Florida at the time, through the 80s and 90s, up until 2010, and you didn't report the rape, and you live in that general area where he was, please call them and let them know you were a victim. And if you're a victim somewhere else in the U.S., because this man has been on the run for 11 years, 9 times out of 10, he has raped since 2010. Please go to your local authorities. If you're watching or listening to this live, go to my community page or the YouTube queue and go to WFLA News. You will see the press conference and you will see the picture, his mugshot from 2010. If you think you've seen this man, you know this man, please dial 911 immediately. If you want to donate to the channel, $BigAndrew129 Cash App. Thank you all so much for joining me. I will be back on here shortly with another live, and this will be a true crime story. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.